Thank you for having us. I see that it's not a brown bag though, it's a glass bowl. We are going to try and talk together, both of us, but we don't know how it'll work. I'll probably do most of the talking, but we'll try and both contribute a little bit. And we're mostly talking about our company, Yuppiechef, which is based in Cape Town. I'm Andrea and this is Shane. Bernard was a bit confused, but and so Yuppiechef is our company that we run in Cape Town, South Africa, and we're going to talk a little bit about what it is now and the story of how it came to be actually since 2006. So when Matthias visited us, that's when we started. So we're going to talk mostly about the last 12 years of our story. But this is what Yuppiechef is now. Yuppiechef.com is an e-commerce site, and we sell kitchen tools, the things like cookware and kitchenware, knives and appliances, and we also sell various food and alcohol, beer and wine and spirits, and it's everything to do with the kitchen and hosting and entertaining at home. And there we also have wedding registry when you're getting married, the gifts for your weddings, and lots of gifting and subscriptions, which is along the top there. Subscriptions is when you buy something and it comes every month, mostly the food and the drinks. So we are an e-commerce company, which is what we have been, and we now also have some stores. So we're both. We're a retailer. We have a team of about 100 in our offices in Cape Town and in our stores. And we've won the South African e-commerce awards 6 times, so the best e-commerce site in South Africa on 6 different years. And we've various other awards as well. It's a very small industry in South Africa. There's not a lot of competition, so I'm not sure that we would necessarily win anywhere else. But because we have been the best and because we've won awards, we've been looked to for lots of speaking. People wanted to hear our story a little bit like this, and we've had lots of different media and in the newspapers and TV and radio, because we've been doing something new and innovative in a country that doesn't have a lot of e-commerce. We've been pioneering in that space. We have our own brand products, so those are Yuppiechef knives and forks, and also other brands that we have created. So we've got to the size where we can actually develop some of our own products. You can talk about that now or just now?
Yeah, I can talk about it now. So in retail, it's really important that in order for you to be sustainable as a retailer, that you have good margin. I don't know if does it make sense? Okay. And in order to do that, selling other people's brands, you're sitting with low margin generally. And so what's very common with retail in terms of how to make it sustainable is to develop your own brand or private label, which is why most of the retailers that we see will always have their sort of core range, their private label own brand. So we started the process of doing that, and at first we knew nothing about it. So you're dealing with China, and China, when you know nothing about it, seems very, it's like when we said you go to Africa, it's like dark Africa. When you're in Africa, going to China is very similar. It's very scary, and there's language barriers. It's a very at first difficult place to be, and you have to learn a lot. So we started the journey of developing our own brand because it was something important and necessary for retail. So we have our Yuppiechef own branded core range. And then we have, which is a whole range of like your basics that doesn't really matter about what brand it is. So, your cutlery and your crockery, dinnerware, service, all that type of thing. So we developed a whole range within that. But we've also developed a brand called Humble and Mash, which is our own brand, which exists as a large collection in our retail catalog. But we also, in order to be able to get the numbers or the quantities from China, we now sell that brand into other retailers as well. So it's sold on Yuppiechef, but it's also sold in other retailers. We knew that we had achieved something when we had a couple from Germany. They were out in South Africa on holiday, and they had seen one of the Humble and Mash products at the accommodation that they were staying in, and they went to try and search in one of their German retailers where they could get Humble and Mash from. And they discovered that it wasn't available, so they came to the Yuppiechef store to buy the Humble and Mash product, which we thought was a real credit for us, because for us, we know German is known for their quality, and they don't just buy anything of low quality. So So for us, that was a real credit to what we've done with own brand. So a big focus on packaging, on a design that's really important to us. Anyway, that's the process that we've been through with our own brand products.
There we go, more emblem.
It's one of our sugar bowls, anyway.
We have created some digital products. So that's a relatively well-known chef in South Africa. So working with about 5 or 6 different chefs, teaching lessons online, how to do baking, how to work with meat, how to do breakfasts and things. And the courses some of them are free and some of them are paid. And it's a good product for us because we can sell it throughout the whole world. So we've sold in many, many different countries around the world, the courses that we have online. And then obviously those courses use tools, the kitchen tools that someone says, I need that to do the cooking, and then they buy that from us as well. So digital products. We do ship to, you'll see that Europe is covered there. We were shipping wine to Europe at one stage, South African wines out of the country. And then from South Africa to countries like Namibia and Botswana and Mauritius and Mozambique and the UAE. So it's a very small part of our business, but we have started to go outside of the country and ship to different places. But to go to many other countries, we would probably have to have warehousing and distribution in each of those countries. So that's a bit of a slower process so far. And then in October, we opened so we had always just been online. And in October, we opened our first real big store 4 months ago. And this is in a shopping center. Most shopping in South Africa happen within shopping centers. And this store is about 280 square meters. And it has, I don't know how many pictures you put in your Shane, so I'm just clicking to get to the end. So this is it's a small portion of the whole range that we sell online. And the store it's got a cooking space there where we will be hosting events and teaching people how to cook within the store, and people in the store can buy things that can get delivered to their homes, or obviously they can shop online and then come into the store and collect it in there. So we call that omni-channel, and it's a big focus, and we think that the future of retail, most retail, will be online and offline working together. But we'll talk a little bit more about that at the end. We just wanted to give an overview of where we're at. Okay, so that's the end of where we're at. That's as of today. So I don't have the slides showing me what's coming next, so we have to just guess sometimes. So where we are today is 100 people, 2 stores, won lots of awards, got our own brand products, digital products. But now we're going to rewind to the beginning and tell the story of how we started. In 2005, Shane is the one taking the picture, and that's Fred and John, who used to work with us, and me. And you can see our very modern laptops that we were using back then. And we were working together, and we were selling our time to other companies, other clients. We did design and branding and marketing, and each month we would start and we'd find a client and we'd do some work, and get paid by the hour, and then the next month you would have to start again. So we were running our own business, but it is it's quite a difficult business to run because you have the worst boss in the world, which is yourself. You don't get paid if you're sick, you don't get paid if you go on holiday, and you have to keep on selling your own time. And it's very difficult to scale that because we were quite good at what we did, but to try and hire more people and sell their time became a very difficult, well, it is a very difficult business. And we always had the idea of wanting to do something that was our own. So we wanted to create something, use the skills that we had, mainly the online skills that we had. And if we work for 10 hours on something, even if we get paid nothing for it now, in a year's time, it should still be giving a return. Whereas when you work for a client, you don't. And we had built websites and we had done work for many different clients, and we thought we'd done a really good job. But whether we did a great job or an average job, we still got paid for an hour of our time. And it just became quite hard to keep motivated to keep on doing it really well. So we thought, one of the things we can start doing is we can sell something, we sell a product, we can do e-commerce because that has all the skills that we have. And so we talk about doing this, but everyone talks about it and they never actually do it. I think we're talking to a room full of people who have done it, who have stepped out and done something new. But we wanted to actually just start. And we said, well, if the 4 of us get together for 3 days, it was a Thursday, a Friday, and a Saturday, and we're going to come at the start of those 3 days, and we're each going to have a product, and we're going to build some sort of e-commerce site, and at the end, we will leave and we will have a site that is built. And Matthias gave it away, but the site that we ended up building was called the Bug Zapper. So this is a racket with electric strings that you use to kill flies and mosquitoes. We didn't create the product, but it existed, and we thought we could create an e-commerce site that would sell these things. And in 2005, in South Africa, people didn't buy things online, really. Maybe some books and DVDs and games, but e-commerce was very, very small. And so the idea of making a site that sold an electric racket, it was pretty crazy. But we built in those 3 days. We found out how to take the payment, how to deliver it to the customer, making the site. And on the Saturday, the site went live, and we sold one to my mom. And we realized that marketing online is very difficult because it's not like opening a store where people walk past every day. If you put it out there, nobody knows other than when you tell your mom on the phone. So we carried a process then of marketing, and over the next couple of years, we sold about 10,000 bug zappers online. So it did work, and it was exactly what we had in mind because we did the work, we built the site, and then you would come on a Monday morning and open up the email and say, oh, look, we've made some sales while we were sleeping or while we were away on the weekend. So it was work that was bigger than each of our hours of our time. And Shane's dad ended up taking over the running of bug zappers. So he would just check his mail and put one in the box and ship it off to the customer. And so that was it. But obviously that is a very, very small site. It wasn't going to support anyone, but it was the first thing that we had built that was our own. Shane can tell this story.
Yeah, so we were, I don't know how we came across this product, but we were in the bug zapping industry, and somehow we found this electric heating unit that killed rats in a very humane way. And so we introduced the rat terminator. And it was interesting because at the time, as Andrew said, people weren't shopping online, but people were searching online how to solve problems that they had. And how do you solve a rat problem? You go and Google it. And so we would come up with, be able to put our Google ads up and be able to sell them. But this was developed by some crazy guy who believed that within 3 meters of anybody at any time there'll be a rat. So he was out to kill rats, and this is a product that he developed. And we actually sold quite a few of those. But we took all of those photographs, and we had this rubber rat to show you how it worked. But yeah, it was our next evolution in our online retail.
The next site we started was called Flag Kit. Well, we actually took it over from someone else. And in 2005, the Soccer World Cup was coming to South Africa in 2010, and we thought people were going to go crazy for flags. And this was a way that you could put a flag with a pole outside of your house. And we sold some of these, but what we sold more was just all sorts of country flags and flag poles. Because if for some reason you were in South Africa and you needed the Swiss flag because someone was coming to visit you and you wanted to put the flag, where do you go to get that? What store will sell you a country flag? We don't have any of those stores. And so you would probably Google it and you would come up and you say, oh, there we go, it costs so much and you can have it delivered. So e-commerce was very much selling, as Shane said, solving people's problems for the type of thing that they were searching for. People weren't shopping online out of convenience or because they were lazy or because they thought it was quicker or cheaper. They were only really trusted online shopping if it's something they desperately needed and there's nowhere else to do it. So that was the theme as we went along. And I don't know what the next slide is, Shane. Yeah. Okay, so then how did we come up with Yuppiechef?
Yeah, so we used to, when hanging out with friends and standing around the barbecue, your friends would say, or people you don't know ask you, what do you do? And we would say, well, we sell, bug zapping and rat exterminating products. And to be honest, it wasn't something that we were really proud of. We were a little bit embarrassed by it. And we really wanted to start, develop a brand that had a lifestyle element to it and something that we could really get behind. When I was at school, I wanted to be a chef. At the time, this is going back some time, but chefing was sort of seen as a, if you weren't performing in school very well, you'd go and do chefing, for druggies and dropouts type of thing. But so it wasn't something that I pursued, but I always had an interest in cooking, and the idea of, Jamie Oliver was a big inspiration for us in the sense he took cooking and made it really accessible. There was a lifestyle element to it. He made it really cool. And one of the things, I used to love the idea of like kitchen tools, and most retailers were, the way they presented them was pretty boring. Pots and pans, stainless steel, it's pretty boring. And this idea of taking something that was used to be boring, and putting it in a way, presenting it in a way that speaks to the lifestyle of cooking was something that we wanted to do. So we came up with the idea. We went to see a chef friend and ask her what tools do chefs use, and she said, well, they kind of use ordinary tools. It's nothing amazing, but she presented a few options for us. But the idea of putting together 12 products of kitchen tools, a very simple range, and then coming up with a brand was something that we thought was a good idea. So yeah, it's a flash of inspiration. The name Yuppiechef came up. We thought it was cool. It was speaking to that lifestyle element of Yuppie being somebody who shows off what they have, being proud of what they have, and buying generally more premium, expensive items. Spoke to the brand. So it was something that we had. But when I came and I presented the name to Andrew, the first thing he did was go and check to see if the .com was available. And we discovered that some American guy had bought, Yuppie plumber, Yuppie accountant, Yuppie chef, a whole lot of different Yuppies, and so it wasn't available. Anyway.
Yeah. Okay. So I said to Shane, well, that's it. There can't be another Yuppiechef out there in the world. So obviously your name is wrong. And he said, no. I had this vision of Yuppiechef in the name, and so let's just keep building it for now. And we sent an email to the person who owned it and said, do you want to sell it? You're not really using it, and we didn't hear anything back. And a month or two later, we actually had kept on working on the site, and we went to, Shane went to look, and this is Google Chat, which used to be what Slack was back in the day, and it records your chat. So this is 4 o'clock in the afternoon on June 2006, and Shane says, fantastic news, groundbreaking news, Yuppiechef.com is available. And the guy who owned it had just let it expire, and so we bought it for $9. And so it was like it was clearly the right name, and so the name has carried on. So at this stage, that's in June 2006. We are working from my lounge. The two of us were neighbors. We lived next door to each other. And we still, during the day, were working on all of our other client work. And this was, in starting Yuppiechef, we didn't go and raise a whole lot of money and quit our jobs and hire a big team and hire an office and start this big thing. We just started working on it. We started working on the evenings and weekends and whenever we could in between, with nothing, with no money, with no employees, without anything. And this was a conversation that we had actually in May 2006. So 8:20, hey geezer, that's a weird word to use, but it's kind of friend, I suppose. Hey, what are your latest Yuppiechef emotions? What I said to him. And Shane said, what do you mean? I said, are you amped, which is like excited? Or are you down? Or are you neutral? And Shane said, 50% amped, holding out to see this thing happen. I said, it seems so much harder than Bug Zapper. And I think the important thing with this slide is that we were not convinced about Yuppiechef. It's not like we had an idea that was so good that as soon as we started working on it, we knew this was the future. This is before we've launched, but even after we had launched, we went live with Yuppiechef a while later, and I remember saying to Shane, this Yuppiechef thing is not working. Maybe we should just focus on flags, because we're selling a lot of flags. Let's leave the kitchen thing and focus on flag kits. And unfortunately, we didn't. We kept on going. But it was a good... was this a good indication? Because I think a lot of the times when we read stories, particularly of technology companies, it seems like from day one, they were so convinced that it was going to work. And it just grew bigger and bigger. And then investors gave them money and then they doubled every month. And that was definitely not the case with us. This was one of the very first designs. And it was not actually what went live, but it was just a sort of an example of it. And Yuppiechef was the name, and then underneath it said cooking good, which there's a saying, looking good. And so cooking good was kind of trying to play on that idea of, it's not just about the tools, but it's also about, how it makes you feel to use them and what they look like in your kitchen. You can see different products. That Jamie Oliver, we never actually sold the flavor shaker, but as Shane said, Jamie Oliver was an inspiration for us because he was trying to get ordinary people to cook. He was a chef and he's run restaurants and things, but his message was that every ordinary person at home can also cook, and cooking can be something for the family, and we really appreciated that message. In August 2006 we went live. So Shane sent a mail and said, "Dear friends, you've been waiting a long time for this." I don't think they had been waiting a long time. Yuppiechef is live, and be the first to know and give us your feedback. So this is Shane telling the world. So on the 11th of August, we told the world. And the first sale, this was the first sale. We actually went live with one brand. QZ Pro was the brand that sold various types of tools, and we had a friend in another city who was importing this brand into South Africa, and there were 32 products. So that was all there was. There was QZ Pro, 32 products. We didn't even take credit card payments. You had to make a bank transfer into our account, and there were just these products. And we went live. On the 16th of August, we made this first sale, and it was to Shane's dad. So the trend had continued because nobody knew about it. This is all of the sales in 2006, and it starts at the bottom. And Bevan Dryden, so that's Shane's dad. And then Corey was a friend, and Wanda was a friend, and Kevin was a friend, and Hillary was the mom of John who worked with us, and Debbie is my wife. So it took until November, the 20th of November 2006. And that was Denise Gunner. And she bought from us, and I said, "Shane, do you know who Denise is?" And he's like, "No, do you know who Denise is?" Like, this is a stranger. And this person who has come to Yuppiechef, they've never heard of us, that's for sure. And they've added, that's 335 Rand, it's not a very big amount, but they've added these things to their cart and they've checked out. And then they've made a bank transfer, which is you can't take it back. Once you've transferred the money, it's gone into our account. And she now trusts that we're going to deliver it. And it was it feels so obvious today, and I'm sure all of you have shopped online many times. But if you think back a number of years and to South Africa, which didn't have really much e-commerce, there was an amazing amount of trust that this customer had put in us. And we said at that stage, we can't just put the product in a brown box and send it off to her. We want her to know that we are real people. We didn't really want her to know that we were two guys in a lounge because we wanted to appear a little bit bigger, but we wanted to show that we were real human beings. And I think when we think of e-commerce and shopping, you think of some big warehouse and a robotic arm that picks something off a shelf and drops it on a conveyor belt and it goes off. And so if something goes wrong, what do we do? You can't argue with a robot. And we wanted to show that we were real people. And if something went wrong, she'd be able to come back to us. So we wrote a letter. It was a letter on a piece of paper in an envelope, and we said, "Dear Denise, thank you so much for shopping with us." We wanted to thank her and show that we were grateful. And then also it must be handwritten, and at the bottom it must be from real people, so from Shane and the Yuppiechef team or from Andrew. And we sent it off to her, and she never bought again, so maybe she was offended. I don't know, she's never been back. But from that time, we've written nearly 1 million handwritten cards and letters to all of our customers. Everyone who ever shops with us gets a handwritten. These days it's on a card, and there are no scripts. We don't tell the people who write them in the business. There's some full-time, but everyone. I still write 2 cards a day. And it's about, we don't tell them what to write. We do show when you're writing the card who the customer is, what they have bought, what they've bought before, so that you can try and say something along the lines of, so good to have you back, or welcome, and thank you for trusting us with your first order. And then even refer to something, maybe something they bought a year ago, and say, I hope the ice cream machine is going well, so that we want to give customers the idea that a human has looked at this order, and that they are valued in that. So you'll see then there was Sophia Lindup, who was actually the chef friend that we spoke about. So, and then there's no orders in December 2006, which is our busiest time now. There were none at that time. So those were all 8 orders from 2006. It was a very, very slow start. It took us more than a year, and we hit 200 orders over the year, and it grew slowly from there. That was my lounge. We worked from the lounge, and Shane worked next door. I lived next door, but came over and worked here. And this is a conversation. Mike was our first employee in 2008. And I think it's interesting that we have a 3-year-old in the back there. In January 2008, my second son had just been born. He was about 3 months old. And he would have his afternoon sleeps. And Mike, who was the one who now was packing the boxes and things, he was asking me, can you use the tape now? So he's talking about the packing tape that goes and it made a big noise. And he wanted to know, has Jake woken up? So can I start using the tape, or is he going to disturb his afternoon sleep? So this was like a family business in a way. And the employees at that stage was just Mike, and then we had, I think, one more while I was still in the house. They would eat at the dining room table and swim at the pool in the back. And that started us with a culture of even to this day, we say, when we hire people, could I imagine them, eating lunch at my dining room table and swimming in my pool? We're hiring people into a type of family. It's not a family, but it sort of feels like a family in some ways. And am I hiring this person just because they're fulfilling a job? Or am I hiring them as if I would trust them if we went out and my 3-month-old was there? So that's part of the history. That was 2008. We're still in the lounge. And this was Shane packing a box. And next to it, you can see the Bugs Upper box. And he's trying to actually, he's trying to cut this box down so there's less air that we ship with it. And so at that time, we packed the boxes, we dealt with the customers who phoned, we ordered the stuff from the suppliers, we did everything. And it's useful now when we are talking to new people who join us. There's a sense of we have done everything in the business. And so whether we're hiring someone now who is in customer service or a buyer or someone who works in the warehouse, we show them this story. We do pretty much the same talk that we're doing now with every new person. And we show them that we have empathy for them. We know what they're going to experience as they're packing boxes. And so if we look at a box and say, that's not packed neatly enough, they have a sense of, okay, well, Andrew and Shane have actually done this. They know what they're talking about. It's a very different process now, but still the principle of not necessarily asking someone else to do something that we weren't prepared to do ourselves. You want to talk about the box?
Yeah, so right from the start, Andrew spoke about the card, but we also felt we needed to present the product, not just shove it in a box. And a lot of the online deliveries that we would get at that time would just be the product in a box with the invoice. And that for us just felt a little bit strange. So we went to a little bit of effort to put something in the box. It looks a little bit outdated now, but we would walk up the street to the little stationery store, buy all their pink paper that they had, which would last us a very long time because we didn't have too many orders at that stage. But we just went to a little bit of effort to create like a branding experience, which looks simple from this point, but it was something that, in terms of the value and how the person receives the product, was really important.
We then moved to another office, and that was our warehouse. That was the shelf. And one of the advantages in what we were doing was that we could sell hundreds of products, but not hold any stock ourselves, because we didn't have any money, we couldn't buy any stock. And so this was really just products that were coming in, about to go out. So that's Mike packing the boxes there. And so that's what allowed us to start with really no capital, is that we could list a whole range of products, and it was actually an advantage because most stores didn't list the whole range because they've got a limited space that they have on their shelves. But we could sell a whole range, and then as a customer bought from us, we could go and buy it from the supplier and then put it in the box and send it off, because expectations were very low. In 2006, 7, 8, if you bought something online and it arrived at all, you were delighted. I can't believe this works. It's changed a bit now. Now if you buy it online, you're like, well, I bought it this morning. Where is it? So we've had to, now we hold a very lot of stock, but that allowed us to start in a slow way. There was, with the delivery address that we sent it to had to be handwritten. So Mike would handwrite the address that it was going to, and he had very untidy handwriting, and so sometimes it wouldn't get to the right destination. And the delivery company said, you've got to fix that. And so we built then a system so that this piece of paper could get fed through a printer and the address could get put on it. Everything we did, we built ourselves. Everything in the website, everything in if you can call it a warehouse at the time, in the warehouse, and all of our customer service. And it allowed us to do the crazy things that we do, like a handwritten card in the boxes. And it allowed us to scale as we scaled. So when we weren't able to cope with a certain amount of volume, then we'd build a system that could allow us to cope. This picture, I love that it exists. I imagine there was a day then we sent 6 boxes on one day, and we had to take a photo because we were like, can you believe there is so much on one day? But you can see that it was just an ordinary office, and that things were moving out of, and it started to get a little bit hairy. That is where we've got sort of more and more boxes until eventually, it was piled so high you couldn't quite get into the kitchen past all the boxes. And we did 200 orders in one day from that little office, and we knew we had to move on to somewhere else. So we moved to the middle unit of the building. So we had Sprada on one side and Serek on the other side, and we moved into the middle unit, and that looked more like a warehouse. You took out the one picture. And then over time, we've been very fortunate. We've taken the building, the one next to us and the one next to us and the two behind us, and so we have a much bigger space now that fits all of the fits it all in. That was about 2011. Anything to add? Move on. So this is what part of the inside of our warehouse looks like. This is Luanda, and he has I suppose like an iPod Touch. It's a phone, but it's not a phone. It's just a sort of tablet on his arm and a Bluetooth scanner, infrared scanner on his in his hand. And everything in the warehouse we've built ourselves. So all the movement of stock around, receiving, and then putting it on the shelves and then picking it out, which I won't go into a huge amount of detail now, but that's been a great experience for us because we couldn't afford a system that might exist, and also because we just like building things. So we've built our whole warehouse. We have a chaos warehousing system, so everything just lives anywhere it wants to on the shelf. So here you've got a pot next to some wine glasses, next to an ice cream maker, so that when you are picking an item for a customer and you've been told to pick wine glasses, it's obvious, or beer glasses, that's the only one that there is. If all of the glasses were on the same shelf, it would be very difficult to pick the one out. So those type of solutions, they do exist in other places, but we've kind of made them up ourselves, and that's been a really fun process to think about how do we grow and how do we scale with all of our systems. We sell beer and wine, as I said, but something like beer is very difficult to sell online. It's going to be much cheaper for someone to go to the bottle store, the liquor store, and just buy it off there. So we repackage all of the beer into those boxes at the back there. So instead of just selling 6 of the same beer, you could buy 6 or 12 of many different beers from around the world or in a particular style. And we sell that on a subscription. So it's a way of people learning about new beers or learning about new wine or other food products, and also then we can charge more for it, and because people aren't comparing us directly to a liquor store, because you can't get the same experience through that. Oh, sorry. This is after we've picked for an order. That's the handwritten card that now goes. Now this card, it's not the best picture. The person buying wrote the message to her mom, and so we then handwrite the message that was to her mom, and we put it on this card. If there's not a message, and we will write our own message to the person who bought it. And you can see there's a barcode in the bottom corner there. So where the cards are written, and then a whole pile of cards get taken back to the warehouse, and then they get put into the right boxes. So we obviously send the right card with the right boxes, because on busy days we can write maybe 1,000 cards in a day and have to get them to the right boxes and out the door. So this is something that belongs to one order. All the items are in it and the card is in it. And then it gets packed on the pack lanes. So go and fetch it and put it in the right size box.
Sorry, can I say something about those cards? Just something about the cards. As we've grown, there have been critical parts where we've had to have serious discussions like, should we carry on with the cards because we're really struggling? And over certain retail seasons, our higher seasons, sometimes it's really been chaos, and people are walking around with piles of cards, and we're trying to now work out how this is all going to work. And we've had to really hold, I guess, true to our original intention with the cards, was that personal touch. And we've had moments where it could have gone either way. We said, okay, we're just going to drop the cards. It's going to be easier not to do them. So it's been quite interesting to see how we've had to build the technology in order to support what we really valued in the beginning, and really made that effort to try and keep that principle, which I think has been an important thing to do for us. Yeah. And
people even say to us today, it's going to be really sad when you can no longer write cards, when you get so big that you can't do that. And we say, well, if we can afford to write cards now, why, when we're bigger, will we not afford to write cards? Why cannot that not be something that scales as well as we go? And so I think that we, continuing to try and have the culture and the practices of a small company as we get bigger is something that we are trying to hold on to. So this is the packing as it goes, and figuring out how that works. The conveyor belt, items going down. As it goes down the conveyor belt, we decide which delivery company it's going to go to, because it's going to be the fastest and the cheapest. This is our office space. This is the marketing, social media, photography team, and the customer service team, and there's various other teams, and we try to make the environment a good place to work, and focus a lot on the team and who they are. And we've grown from 2 people in the lounge to 100 people, and had learned a lot of lessons over that time of hiring and management and team structure and those types of things. When we decided to open a store, last year, we've spoken about having a physical retail store for a long time, and we would normally, well, obviously we said no all of the way along for various reasons. And the beginning of last year, exactly this time, actually February, Shane and I got together and said, okay, this year we're going to open a store. And we went back to the team and said, we actually put a date in the diary, which was the 27th of July. Yeah. We missed that date. We ended up opening on the 1st of October. But we said we're going to do this if we actually just put something in the diary, store opening event, and then make it happen. And we had to then figure everything out. We had never done it. We'd never negotiated with a shopping center. We hadn't figured out how do you design a store, how do you get it made, how do you do the point of sale. So, when you're actually paying, how do you do all of that? And so last year was a really exciting year of a whole new set of learnings and figuring things out. And one of the things that we decided on was that we weren't going to have a till. I don't know if that's a word that makes sense, where you go up and pay. That we wanted the staff the people who are working in the store to be able to take the payments from wherever they are. So I think Apple Store does that, where the salespeople have a device. And so we found a place that made these devices so at the top it can take a credit card payment, and then everything happens on the device. And what that means is that when you walk into our store, someone can greet you and help you all the way through until when you leave, and you never have being passed on to different people. And so we were able to hire really good people, and we spent 6 weeks training them about who we are and about the products, and so that when they're there, because they're now representing us and our brand to customers. And so it was that was, I guess, a big scary thing for us. And then we built the point of sale system ourselves, because that's what we do, and because there was nothing else like that out there. So in this, you can sell, you can collect something that you bought online, you can start a return or repair process from on the device. So someone brings back something they didn't like, and the whole return process happens there on the device. Print out price tags. And this system was very important for us. I think the future of retail is that the customers see one brand. They see Yuppiechef. They don't see online and offline as two different things. So we made a very firm principle that the price should always be the same. There shouldn't be one price if you're shopping online and one price if you shop in the store. So actually, as you scan an item in the store, it goes and asks the website what the price of that item is and if there's any specials or things attached to it. So there'll never be a difference in price between the two. And those are sort of the principles in the store that we have tried to maintain. It also means that you can sell more than what is in the store. So in this sale for a customer, from our store is they're taking one product, and then delivery to their home they're taking another product, and they'll give us the delivery address and then do one payment, and they'll take some things away from them and have other things delivered. So for the customer, they're seeing us as a single source, no matter where they buy from. And so that's been a really interesting process. And for us to, part of our vision is to create the best shopping experience in the world. And so we think about, if we were in a store, what would the best shopping experience look like? How would you access 10,000 products when there's only 2,000 that are in the store? And so we've been figuring that out. Underneath the products, that's actually Humble and Mash is one of the products that Shane has found in China for us. It has the name of the product, and it has the price, and then it has the 5 stars from 7 reviews. So that's come from people reviewing it on the website. And if another person reviewed that, it is a piece of paper. If another person reviewed it, in the mornings out the printer would come a new price tag, and the team would then put it in there and said 5 stars from 8 reviews. And then on the left there's a QR code, and we're very fortunate that about 2 days before we opened the store, the latest iPhone update, the camera now can read QR codes. So the timing of that was wonderful. So you can take your camera up to that, and you can hover over the QR code, and it will actually tell you what those reviews are. So there's strong and beautiful color. I love the set. Value for money. It looks amazing. So you can read those reviews. You could watch videos. You could see other pictures. And then from on your phone, you could add to your cart or to your wedding registry or to your wish list, and you can deliver it. So again, we're trying to kind of bring the online and the offline together in one place. I think that's it. Oh, no. Okay, so apparently Matthias sold this event that we were going to talk about guerrilla marketing. And
we haven't done that at all.
We haven't done that, so here we go. Shane's going to tell us.
So, what year was this in?
A long time ago.
Yeah, many years ago.
2010.
So that poster on the side there appeared on a store called Woolworths, which is, I don't know what to relate it to here in Switzerland, but in the UK, like Marks and Spencer. It's like quite a high-end food and clothing store. So They were running their Valentine's campaign, and it had something to do with birds, and you would have to tweet using various things, and you and your partner's, I don't know, message would be on their website. So I was on Twitter one evening, and I saw somebody had posted a picture of Woolworths' new campaign, and that was the poster. And I went to the web address woolieslovebird.co.za, and the website didn't go anywhere. And tried again, it didn't go anywhere. And then I realized what they'd actually done is the campaign was Woolies Love Birds with an S, and that went to the website, but on all their posters and all their marketing throughout the country, they had put woolieslovebird.co.za. And so I messaged Andrew and I said, hey, check this out. I think they made a real mistake. And so Andrew then bought the domain. And at the time, we felt like we were like naughty kids with something that we shouldn't have. We had stolen something. But so the following, that was Sunday evening. The following morning, we got together in the office with a couple of the other guys, and we were like, what are we going to do with this? Because we could get into serious trouble. Woolworths has got a lot of money. They can, pay their legal team, and this is their campaign that they've just launched. Like, what do we do with this? So Mike, the guy with the tape gun who was asking permission for the tape gun, he said, well, why don't we ransom it, and we can try and raise money for our charity that we supported. So on the right there is our ransom note, and we basically posted this on social media, and we said, hey, Woolies, we've got your lovebirds, and basically, like, you need to match every cent that our community is going to give towards this charity. So we basically created a whole campaign out of this, and we put this up, and we waited. We waited for the lawyer to phone. And amazingly enough, Woolworths actually, in a way, they had to show that they were game for it and were willing to play with us. And they got in touch and said, this is a great initiative and a great thing that you guys are doing, and we would love to support. What they didn't know is that our community would really get on board, and so we then started having some of the banks got involved, and they were like pledging large amounts of money. And there was a point where Woolies basically said to us, look, we can't continue to match because it's gone too high in number. But the interesting thing, we got a lot of PR out of this. We had some lawyers had written some papers about what could have gone wrong, and if Woolworths hadn't played along, like what they could have done to us on the whole legal side of it. But what was really amazing is that we got a lot of radio, TV around it, but there was also a lot of people who thought that we had sort of come up with this whole campaign with Woolworths, and sort of really it wasn't real. It was something that we had just sort of made happen, and only much later did people actually find out that it was absolutely real. But at the time when we didn't have a lot of money for marketing, it was really a significant step for us in terms of our name getting out there, and for people to see, for those even who thought that we had done this with Woolworths, the fact that Woolworths was even willing to do a campaign with us, put us in a position of being sort of peers with Woolworths, and it really just elevated our brand and gave us much more momentum than we would have if we hadn't done this. So it was just a great example of taking that moment and seizing it and being a little bit brave and just going for it, which we had a lot of fun with. So we ended up raising about 120,000 rand. I don't know what the equivalent of that is, and we presented that to our charity. So it was just a good event. Yeah.
And our ransom note that we had published online got more traffic than the whole of the Woolworths campaign. So their campaign that they had spent a lot of money on all of the print and the pricing and the advertising and the everything got less than our ransom note got. So it was an example of how to, at that stage we were probably 5 people, how do sort of 5 people with no money take on someone much bigger and get publicity from it. So yeah. So that is little bits of our story. It's 1 o'clock. I don't know if anyone needs to leave. There's lots of paths that the story can take and things that we can talk about if you're interested. If you have to leave, we won't be offended. Looks like you have to leave, so cheerio. So, but that's it. That's all from us.
Yeah, thank you.
Do you still have time to cook? Or is that?
Yeah. Jeez. Shane is more of the cook than I am, but what we say with Yuppiechef is that it's not only for cooks. You know, we have a thing going about coffee, so we sell a lot of coffee machine and coffee making equipment. We obviously sell good beer and gin and spirits. You know, it's not just about people who cook. It's about everyone who does anything to do with entertaining and eating at home and food and things. So I'm not a very good cook myself, but I think I'm still a Yuppiechef customer. Shane is much more of a cook. I think that in terms of do we have the time, we have a big team now, and we're here this week, and the whole company is carrying on as it were. So you know, there were the days where Shane had to pack every box, and when if he was away, well, I suppose both of us, but for some reason you did the packing, and you know, you kind of get to the point eventually where there's whole teams of people who do things that. So we do have time. We because we have a good team. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Other questions?
Cool.
I have a question.
No?
You go
I
first.
could probably ask you. What's your Edison? I know you didn't mention that. Is that a different thing to the humble and mash thing? It's like your own product versus importing. It's not your own company, but it's not a product.
Yeah, so we have another company within the group which is called Edison Stone, and we've had to create a separate company because we're supplying other retailers with brands like Humble and Mash. We've also over the years picked up the agencies for well-known brands, so we represent some international brands in South Africa. And so it's a separate company. It's basically import and distribution, but we develop all of our own brand stuff within there. And then Edison Stone actually supplies Yuppiechef with Humble and Mash and develops Yuppiechef own brand for Yuppiechef. But I sit kind of an Edison Stone, Andrew on a day-to-day basis. He's on Yuppiechef, but we're running the two businesses together. Yeah. Don't put that on video.
How does the future going to look like? As you grow, are you going to further diversify or be more specialized?
Yeah. So there's three types of growth that we could have. The one is that we could take what we do in kitchen and we can do other things. We could do clothing or sporting equipment or something else. So the same thing, but just sort of a horizontal growth, which we don't think we will do because we're very passionate about kitchen. I think that's why customers love us, is because we focus on it and we all enjoy it. We have kitchens in the office where people cook, and because we've specialized, people like us. And also I don't know that just starting many more of them is good business, because I don't know that e-commerce on its own or retail just is necessarily profitable if you don't do vertical expansion. So the first would be horizontal expansion. The second would be geographic expansion, so we could take what we're doing and we could do it in other countries, which we would like to do, but it's creating it would be a huge investment to actually create another office and warehouse and distribution and do the importing in another country. So maybe it will happen, but we can't rush that. And then the third type of expansion is vertical expansion, so that's with our stores, our physical stores on one side, and now creating our own products and importing products on the other side and doing digital products and things like that. So sticking within kitchen and sticking within South Africa, but just trying to take as much of that space as we can. And that's the expansion that we focused on at the moment. Our first store was last year. We have plans for many more stores over the next while around the whole country. And so that's our expansion focus for now.
What would you consider to be your turning point, basically, in the story you've just told now?
Well, yeah, I mean,
most of them are probably different.
Yeah.
Depending on who.
So there's a good part of the story which maybe answers your question to an extent, is that it took 5 years, so from 2006 until 2011, before Shane and I were paid our salaries from Yuppiechef. In those 5 years, we still kept on working for other clients, and we hired people. We'd moved to another office, but we still had to get our money from somewhere else. And that was very much a sort of a goal, if we call it a turning point, but definitely a goal where we said, we have to get to this size
in order to not have to do work for our sort of agency clients, where we can just do e-commerce. And so in 2011, when that was the case, when we had finally sort of said goodbye to all the other clients and we could just do e-commerce, it was a major turning point for us, because then it just allowed a focus. And I think there's entrepreneurs who are able to do many different things at once, but I think we're the type of entrepreneurs that prefer to do one thing in lots of detail and depth. And so it was definitely a goal for that to be, this is the only thing that we do, and it supports us.
But the turning point would also be like kind of the turning point. The key moment would be when you decided to actually start doing it.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, the Bug Zapper event, so that event in 2005, I think that was, it would be so easy to just have carried on doing what we were doing.
Right.
And to actually say, well, the way to do this is to make it like 3 days, and there's going to be 4 of us, and we're going to put ourselves in a room and we're going to create something. If we hadn't done that, nothing would have happened. That sort of stepping out into that was a huge moment for us. And then the rest, I suppose, was a little bit more kind of organic and developing as we went on. But that was a major point.
Yeah, I think one of the other things, you know, when you start, you always face that issue of how do we market this, and marketing is expensive. And I remember we went to go and see this guy. His name is John, and he's become a good friend. And he said, like, you guys just really need to focus on creating an amazing experience that people are going to talk about. And so this idea of word of mouth, and we said, well, we only had like 10 customers. How's this going to work, you know? And it was really amazing to see how word of mouth actually just exponentially grows. And I mean, one of the things, Andrew's dad, his neighbor recommended Yuppiechef to his dad. So that was pretty cool. And we would also start to see, you know, a certain delivery in the early days where we could actually recognize, you know, addresses. We were in the detail enough to start to see deliveries going to the same street, different numbers in the same street. And so potentially the neighbors talking to each other and that type of thing. So word of mouth was also one of those moments where let's create, you know, we'd spend time on the packaging and you know, the handwritten card and the customer experience in order to create something that people would actually talk about. Yeah.
Do you do everything in-house, like marketing and design and developing?
Yeah.
You never had any agency or like view from outside?
Every now and again we've tried to do little things outsourced, but it is... and now we do have a PR, a public relations company, but basically everything important happens in-house. And I think because our standards are too high, when people do work for us, we're never happy with it, whereas when we do it ourselves, we can be happy with it. But also, you know, it has been a very new industry and a new type of company in South Africa. So the agencies they don't know how to promote an e-commerce company. They've never done it before. And often they would do something, you don't know you don't actually know what you're doing in this circumstance. So, and similarly with our website or our warehouse systems, you know, we're all in one building, one big building. And so the programmer who is doing something to do with the warehouse system, like he can go downstairs and he can see the person who's using it, and the person using it says, it doesn't work so well when I scan this happens, and he goes back up and he changes it. And so when you use outsourced programmers or something, they don't actually know what it's like to be doing that. So our team is very involved and integrated. When we do stock takes, when we count all the stock, you know, everyone gets involved in doing that. And so the programmers who are building the system are counting the stock and thinking, this is terrible, we should improve it. And that only works when you're all in one place. Or, you know, when we help in customer service, if the whole customer service team is meeting, then some other people will come and sit and answer the phones and things, and then you can actually hear a customer so the designer, let's say, of the website is listening to a customer who's saying, I don't know how to do this on the website, and he thinks like, and he goes back to his desk and he fixes it on the website. So that type of everyone being right there together has made a difference. And outsourcing there's some things that you can, you know, say delivery we outsource, because I don't want us to have all of our own delivery vehicles and drivers and everything. Like, that's fine, someone else can do that. But everything that is really core to our business, we do ourselves.
Yeah. Just on that thing of everybody sort of being exposed, we have a little retail store in our office. It's sort of like an outlet store, but we have a lot of customers coming every day, and we have different members of the teams going and spending an hour, 2 hours helping out in the store. And that's across the board. Andrew goes from time to time and helps there, and it's amazing the kind of feedback you get. and the frustration that customers feel, over certain products, or they're not quite understanding how it works, and it's just a really good place to be in terms of really maintaining that connection with the customer. Because I think as you grow, that can start to really widen, that gap can widen. So we worked quite hard to try and keep that gap as low as possible. Yeah.
So were the technical or the tech infrastructure, was that a bigger hurdle, or just the whole warehouse management, or is it, as you said, so intertwined that it's almost the same?
So the thing with when we tour people around, because people come and have a look at the office, and you show them around, and they may be about to start some small e-commerce thing, and they look at all of this and go, that is so crazy and so complicated. But for us, it's a little bit like watching your own child grow up. That every day they're just a tiny bit taller than they were yesterday. And so someone comes and visits you and go, wow, you've grown up so much. But actually, they've just done a little bit over time. So with the technology and the warehousing, it's just been 12 years of a little bit. And the very first thing, Shane used to order the stock from the suppliers, and then when it arrived, put it in the boxes and ship it out. And he went on holiday for a week, and there were 2 orders at the same time that came in, and I had to now deal with this. Like, how do you do 2 orders at the same time? And so so I printed out a piece of paper, one for one order and one for the other order, and then as the stock came from the suppliers, I put some of it there and some of it there, and then, okay, is everything here? And we're going to put it in the box. I'm like, this is ridiculous. We need a new system. So now a system that orders, automatically orders from the suppliers what's needed, and then, so it's just about every day doing fast iterations, and all of our programmers being right there, being able to do things all the time. We are on the website and in the systems that run the company, making many changes a week to keep it going.
But I think as well, the tech part has been the easy part, and I think it's been the part that has really come naturally. And I think one of the key things with us is that Andrew was the tech founder. So every bit of detail, and right from the start, the development of those systems came. And it's interesting, we see other people trying to start, online stores or some kind of, they want to create an app. And the first thing we ask is, so who's, out of the 2 of you, or, who's your tech person? And no, we've outsourced our tech to this company. And we go, oh my goodness, you're in for a bit of a ride, because it's so important to have that really, really close. And I think that's been one of our advantages. So in a way, we've built amazing systems, but I think we've struggled with the retail part, and just trying to how we deal with the customer and how we sell, and how we explain the products. The tech part has sort of been the part that comes naturally. Yeah.
And people.
Yeah, people. People. Yeah.
I remember one friend saying to us, "You don't want to start a business that has stock and staff." And our business is pretty much only stock and stuff. Because it takes so much cash to buy it and store it, and staff because hiring people is very difficult, and managing them and working that out. So those have been the big, the most difficult learnings, is how do you're dealing with people's lives, and often you've convinced them to leave their other job and come and work for you, and you don't even necessarily know whether what they're coming to is going to survive, or that their role makes sense. And so it's a huge privilege, but it's also a very scary thing in offering employment to people, and the responsibility that comes with it. So.
What's your website built on, like technology-wise?
Technology.
Did you use anything that was out there already, systems? Or?
No, we tried. In 2006, there weren't really good systems. There's much better ones today. So we built it ourselves because we had done that. And now the things like the handwritten cards with the barcode, and like no other system is going to do that. So we started building it in a custom way, because that's what we had been doing for other clients, and just carried on. So it's all of it. There's little bits that we do. We've got an accounting package. We use Xero as our accounting package that that the auditors need, and we've our customer service ticketing system. So there's little bits that plug in on the sides, but the core of it is built ourselves. Yeah.
Do you think Yuppiechef is the firm of your lifetime, or in the long term you're going to switch and
that's a good question.
Start another business or something else?
I think it depends when you we've probably given different answers at different times of our career. And there was a time when we definitely said, oh no, this is just one thing and we're going to do lots of others. And I think because we haven't run out of new things to do, Shane and I are not good at maintaining. If this year was going to be exactly the same as last year, then I think we'd be out. But as long as every year is bringing so many big new challenges, we're happy to keep on going in that way. But we have other investors now in the business. There are other shareholders, and so it's not entirely up to us as to what happens with the business. So that's one of our, what we're trying to figure out now is that you set yourself on a course when you take investment money in, which means that certain decisions are going to come down the line that aren't fully in your control. Mm-hmm. So that's something which influences where we're at now, and I think as well that it is going to, even if it still stays Yuppiechef, or it stays sort of the same core people over time, it's obviously going to change as we've gone into physical retail and digital products, and they're doing the importing and creating our own brands. All of those are sort of almost in a way new businesses, but they're just all housed under one bigger thing. And maybe parts of it will break off and go in other directions with people who are running them. So we don't know exactly, but for now, we know that this year will be a big enough challenge that we're not going to be bored in doing it. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks. So what's your everyday job now?
Yeah, see, perfecting coffee making. So Shane said that so there's two businesses within the group, and the one is more focused on the product creation and importing of a couple of those brands. So Shane is in that business, which is much smaller. There's about 5 people who work there, but he does spend time in Yuppiechef, and I spend time there. The Yuppiechef business is bigger, and that's where I spend most of my time. So it's obviously a lot of meetings with teams and team leaders and setting the strategy and the direction for that. But I still do actual coding myself. I find it difficult to have a whole day where all I've done is speak in meetings and answer emails. I like to actually produce something. Very small things. The technical team doesn't let me do anything important, but just small little bits and pieces that we do that. So it's a real mixture. I also am. So there's snowing outside, which is so novel for us from Cape Town. That never happens. So I'm also, there's a lot of speaking and interactions with outside people and the media and everything, because in a way I'm kind of seen as the face of Yuppiechef. So there's a big part of that, which is me. But it's every day is, I suppose, a little different in some way. Anything to add to that? Amazing amount of meetings. It would be nice if that wasn't the case, but and email, meetings and email, and spreadsheets.